The Nigerian Federal Government has announced a major policy shift, officially designating kidnappers and bandit groups as terrorists, a move that signals a tougher national response to the surge in abductions and rural violence, and is expected to expand the powers of security agencies in intelligence sharing and counter-terror operations. This security reclassification comes as Nigeria and the United States move to de-escalate recent diplomatic tensions triggered by U.S. concerns over insecurity and alleged religious persecution. In Abuja, actually, the FCT information says that the issues between both countries have been largely resolved following high-level engagements.
Led by Congressman Bill Huizenga, the U.S. delegation visiting Nigeria also firmly ruled out any deployment of American troops, stressing that Washington's designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern is intended to encourage reforms through diplomacy rather than military action. Joining us now for this important conversation is security expert Chidi Omeje. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Thanks for having me, and compliments of the season.
Yeah, same to you.
Thank you.
Now, with this recent update from United States delegates visiting Nigeria, it seems like we can breathe a huge sigh of relief for many Nigerians. There are also assumptions that the United States will be sending troops to Nigeria after Trump threats, but this won't be happening anymore. How would you assess Nigeria's response and its relationship with the United States since President Trump put out those tweets, and since the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern? Are you satisfied with the government's response so far? And has it made any difference on the ground in terms of security?
To ask me if I'm satisfied about the response is neither here nor there. The important thing is what is happening in our country. How are we faring? Are we secured? Are we free from the apron strings of these bandits? Those are the issues. But talking about what the congressman had said, the congressman was just making a suggestion. He was not saying categorically. I mean, the buck does not end on his desk. He has just come for investigation. He's not making any categorical statement. The whole thing, we will have to wait for the president, President Trump, to actually kind of assess the information I've got from both sides. Remember that Congressman Riley Moore was here some time ago, and then this team again came. So I think that by the time Mr. President, of course, the entire structure of the American presidency, by the time they weigh in, by the time they assess the situations, they will give the appropriate response. But that's not to say that the best response is to have American boots on ground. Even the American boots on the ground will not even solve the problem, because you need to actually take care of the entire, what we call positive factors. You have to take care of the root cause. If you do any root cause analysis, you see that the issues we are seeing are just symptoms of something much more fundamental, and you got to deal with those fundamentals before you get a hold of the situation. And in terms of Nigeria's response, of course, you see that's always been the how we do things in this part of the world. We need somebody to kick our butt before we do the right thing. You notice how frantic the government was, how all those guys were running here to give a good account of themselves. Like I said in my opening remark, I said, how are we faring? Are the issues abating? Are we still seeing incidents of banditry, terrorism here and there? Are we not seeing them? People have stories to tell. People in the hinterlands are actually facing the heat every day. So, but you see, each time we say all these things, we tend to, kind of look down on the efforts of the Nigerian armed forces in the first place. We must put that into consideration before we even talk about the Americans, because you see, we must actually, encourage our troops. They've done a lot. If not the fact that Mr. President had to weigh in at the point to say, look, we have to free the Nigerian police from VIP protection to be part of these efforts. This has only been the issue. Because we have an armed forces that are totally, overstretched, but like I always say, thankfully not overwhelmed. And so by the time, if they get overwhelmed, then you see that nobody will sit here to talk, because these guys are actually very, very determined to overrun our country in terms of the ferocity of their attacks and the frequency of their attacks.
All right, Mr. Omeje.
By and large, yeah.
I mean, I was getting to it. I know you were talking about the military, how they need the support, especially looking at the fact that the terrorists, as they have been declassified, are looking to outrun every single sphere, especially of security in the country. But my question to you is, in 2022, particularly in January, the former late President Muhammadu Buhari, had designated or classified kidnappers, cattle rustlers, criminals, all of them, bandits, as terrorists. And he said it is a move to actually ensure that they can actually curb the growing insecurity. But here we are today. Despite the declassification, nothing has really changed. So what will make a difference now that you have another president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, classifying them as terrorists? What's the difference? What will make it change? What will make the difference is the political will to deal with the situation. What will make the difference is to put our money where our mouth is. What will make the difference is to see that commitment, that sustained commitment. It's not about mere pronunciation. It's not about mere proclamation. What it takes is to have the political will, for instance, to enforce the fact that there will be no police VIP protection. But you and I know that even as we speak today, that political will has not been, brought to bear. There are still people who are still illegally using these policemen, and there are still policemen who are still, illegally allowing themselves to be used. So it's about political will. The difference here, the late president lacked the will, even though he was a general. He did not have that willpower. He did not have that control, probably because of age and illness. He didn't have that firm control of situations. The guys around him wouldn't let him do anything because he was weak. And now we have this president now. If everybody held him as Jagaban of Nigerian politics, I want to see him as Jagaban of Nigerian governance. I want to see that political will, because the difference in the political look. What we mean by political will: the ability to stand your ground, even when friends or entrenched interests and ideologues and all manner of powerful people are involved in issues. You get to be, stand your ground that they are the commander in chief. But here we are pandering to all manner of interests, all manner of political interests, all manner of religious considerations or geopolitics, all manner of things that actually weighing down on the political will. So, like I said, the difference between then and now, if we're going to see a difference, what will be different is if we have that political will to actually stand on our ground, and say this must be done this way and nothing else. That's all the difference, as far as I'm concerned.
When you say political will, when we hear reports about how the hundreds of school children that were kidnapped have now been reunited by their families, they've been, rescued. And we don't get the behind-the-scene details of if these terrorists were actually arrested, what happened if they were neutralized, and, does that show political will? Does that show the political will to actually fight kidnapping? And when Nigerians are asking for that, are they asking for too much?
That's what I'm saying. I have not seen that much needed political will. Because, let's talk about the Niger State kids that were abducted and now released. Now, we don't know exactly if they were released, if they were rescued, if they were recovered, how did they get back home? Was there any negotiation? Was there any ransom paid? Or were the captors, were they captured? Were they arrested? Were anybody killed? Everything is just fuzzy. We don't know exactly what transpired and how the kids got back to us. So these are the things. Look, we need clarity so that Nigerians will know. I always keep saying, That communication is actually at the heart of everything we do. Government need to communicate well. They need to tell us exactly what happened. I know that, yeah, there are some issues that you don't need to bring to the public, but there are ones that the Nigerians need to know. We need to know exactly how those kids were released. If they were released, or recovered if they were recovered, or rescued if they were rescued. Did we engage the terrorists? How many did we kill? How many did we arrest? We can't just say you got them back. So that meaning that if you just got them back, the guys who actually took them are still there, and the probability of the possibility of them carrying more kids are there, and maybe they'll even do more because you may have paid them money. In that way, you have fortified them even more. So we get to know exactly all this. So as far as I'm concerned, the political will is yet to be seen. I'm not saying that, like I told you, I said what will make a difference between what we have.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Chidi Omeje, we'll go on a quick break. We still have quite a lot to unpack on this issue of insecurity. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. A United States delegation visiting Nigeria has ruled out American boots on ground as Nigeria has been classified as a country of particular concern. And joining us for this discussion this morning is security expert Chidi Omeje. Mr. Omeje, thanks for staying with us. Now, you did talk a lot about the political will, and that brings me to this question that I'm about to ask, which is also about political will. Earlier last week, we saw major resignation of two Nigerians that were part of the organizations responsible for oversight in the petroleum industry, NMDPRA. It didn't take 48 hours, but we have a situation that is very serious in our defense architecture. There's been widespread allegations made against the Minister of State for Defense, Mr. Bello Matawalle, when he was governor of Zamfara State. His predecessor has also made serious allegations against him. We've also seen videos of him trying to be sympathetic to the plight of some of these bandits and terrorists. After the cabinet reshuffle, when General Sidi Musa was made Minister of Defense following the resignation of his predecessor, a lot of Nigerians wondered why Mr. Bello Matawalle is still the Minister of State for Defense, despite having these very weighty allegations hanging over his head. So is he still in this position because of political expediency, or what could be the rationale behind him keeping his post as Minister of State for Defense?
Issues I was talking about when I talked about political will to deal with the situations. The optics are not good. Perception is everything. You might think that perception is not realistic, but perception is everything. Here is a guy who, have been indicted, but hefty allegations of complicity, of support, of dealings with bandits and terrorists, and you did not just make him a minister, but Minister of Defense. This is terrible. Just like we had one other guy who had the same perception around him. They made him chairman Senate Committee on Security and Intelligence, National Security and Intelligence. That's Senator Buba, and this is a guy who was actually fingered to have collaboration with bandits. And what did you make it? You made him chairman Senate Committee on National Security and Intelligence. Now here is a guy who the predecessor said he had information that he had been dealing with bandits. Even his own aide who worked with him came out to reveal that, yes, indeed, this guy had links with terrorists and bandits. And you made him not just a minister, but Minister of State for Defense. And he has been there since the inception of this government. And the real issue, the real challenge of this government has been security, terrorism, and banditry. Yet, a guy who has such baggage around him, you made him Minister of State of Defense. Up to today, despite the fact that we now had a new Minister of Defense so see how life works. He used to be the boss of Musa. Musa is now his boss. But the guy, because he doesn't really care about anything, he does not have that dignity to say, look, I can't serve like this anymore. And then the presidency lacked The political I'm talking about. So this is the issue we're talking about, that you've not been able to have that, we have not been able to severe politics and governance. We've not been able to say that there's a thin line between, there's a line between politicking and actual governance. I'm sure that Mr. President is keeping that man probably because of what he expecting to do for him during politics, during the elections, or maybe he has seen that he has some leverages. But even though I don't see any leverage he has, because this is a guy who was defeated even as an incumbent governor. So what is it actually coming up, bringing to the table with in terms of electoral votes? So why is he still there? So the optics is not good. The perception is incredibly terrible. Is horrible. And every single day that man stays as Minister of State for Defense is takes us back. In terms of effort and result, takes us backwards because he has nothing to offer. He hasn't offered anything. I've not seen anything. I've not seen any value he has added. Rather, he has brought odium, brought disgrace to the governor, to the administration. So as far as I'm concerned, he has to leave if Mr. President, really want to be really serious. And I don't know what the president waiting for to do what we call cabinet reshuffle. Is overdue. It's overdue because there are certain elements in the cabinet that have not actually brought problem to the administration. So, for instance, this guy in the Minister of State for Defense, and then of course the Minister of FCT, these are guys who are bringing bad image to the but he doesn't care, probably because he believes that those guys have some value to add in terms of politics and politicking. So that's the issue I'm talking about, political will.
Okay, Mr. Omeje, just recently, the Chief of Army Staff had a conference in Lagos, which was the conference which reassessed Nigeria's army and fight against insecurity. The conference had the former Chief of Defense Staff, had retired army generals, people were all there gathered. And in his speech as well, he said the army should go ahead and crush the terrorists and the likes. We've equally heard this many times again, where even the previous Chief of Army Staff and the likes also said, go out there and crush. But when you look at this statement made boldly, the soldiers on ground usually have recorded videos, and they've said that oftentimes when they want to act on that action, on that statement, they're being told don't. So how can we eventually solve this issue of going out full force to ensure that these terrorists are taken out, especially from the forest or wherever they're hiding? And I'd like you to also speak on the commercialization of the terrorists, because kidnappers are now terrorists. That's what they've called them, especially with what we see during this Yuletide season.
Okay, that particular pronouncement, or rather, that buzzword, that war cry, go out there and crush them, go out and do this, go out and do that. It's what is expected. That's the only way. That's it's like charging the troops to go and do the job they're supposed to do. But this thing I've been flying around that soldiers who are almost at the nick of doing something, they were asked to not to stand down. Look, the current Minister of Defense, who was the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, had actually said it, that the moment you are deployed, you have the orders already. Nothing, no going back. Once you see anything that is counter, that is, sound like an adversary, you bring it down. You don't need anybody to say, stand down. That's what the minister said. So he made it very clear. So that claim should not be tenable anymore. Our troops must go ahead. The moment they are deployed into the theater, they have that freedom of action, freedom of operation to deal with the situation. So nobody should hide under that stuff. But then back to other issues you talked about. Look, the one thing we need to talk about is the welfare of troops. Welfare of troops in terms of giving them what they need the combat enablers they need to do the job. And I remember that this current Chief of Defense Staff, who was the immediate past Chief of Army Staff, he had a philosophy. He said, soldier first philosophy. He centered his command structure, command philosophy around the soldiers. He believed that if we take care of the soldiers, I'm talking about the troops, then they will be able to deliver. and they take care of them in terms of the welfare condition, in terms of their families being settled, having the psychology, the conducive psychology to know that indeed, things are going well. So these are the issues around. We must help our troops. How do I mean? We must look beyond some of this rhetoric, some of this, battle cries and all that, to see how do we ensure that our troops get what they want, be it in the theater of operation, be it elsewhere, because once you are a soldier, once you are a military person, you have actually signed to, lay your life for the country if need be. So these are a very exceptional kind of, career that we must pay premium in terms of, how do we support them. So we mustn't distract them with some of those rhetorics. I don't know some of that question you asked because they lumped them together. What else? Can you remind me?
Yeah.
Well, a lot said, and we've taken note. I mean, these points are points that we hope we would see change now that they've been declassified as terrorists and they've been charged, especially the army security operators have been charged to go out there. Thanks for your points.
Hold on, let me talk about the issue of classification. There's something it does to the soldier or does to our psychology.
Okay.
Because of all this while you brand these vicious terrorists, you call them bandits, you call them kidnappers, you call them thieves, you call them this. No, they are terrorists. And once they are terrorists, you know that you don't have any reason to withhold the action you take against a terrorist. That means the soldier out there have no reason to stand down. You just fire them, just eliminate them. That's how terrorists are not to be negotiated with. Terrorists must be dealt with there and then. They must be eliminated. So that is why it is important that we designate them as terrorists, so that nobody will hide under any cloak to operate and say, oh, they're bandits. Sometimes they're bandits. Look at what one guy called Gumi said, that these are bandits. That sometimes they don't mean they are terrorists, and we must designate them so. So that's very important.
Thank you so much, Chidi Omeje, security expert, for joining us this morning. Thanks for your time.